Hello, everyone. My name is Griffin Bissler Chef. I'm a junior in high school. I'm currently taking AP Calculus AB, and today we're going to be going over 4 out of the 22 basic derivative rules for your AP Calculus AB class.
All right. Hopefully you guys can see my screen here. As you can see, we have the four basic derivative rules on the left here. And you're going to have, firstly, that everything in yellow is just going to tell you to take the derivative. And you first have x. So the derivative of x, I'm going to tell you right now, is just going to equal 1. And the derivative of c is going to be any basic number, and that's going to equal 0. So these two basic, very, very basic derivative rules are going to be very, very important, especially the x equaling 1. Uh, but they're very, very simple, really easy to remember, and they're absolutely not hard at all. If you can see, if you want to go over to the practice here, don't forget your notation as well. If your teacher hasn't already told you, notation is going to be incredibly important for understanding how to solve more complicated later derivatives. They're going to be very, very important. But for right now, just want to remember your f prime of x here. And 12, any basic number is just gonna be using that rule derivative of c. So it's just gonna be 0. Really, really easy. This next one gets slightly more complicated. It's not too bad. Derivative of cu is just gonna be c times u prime. So yeah, you're just gonna, when you're multiplying, you're gonna want to keep that c. You're gonna want to keep any basic number. You're gonna want to keep that in your problem. And u is going to be, in this case, is just going to be x, but it's pretty much going to be any differentiable variable. So uh, things such as x, obviously, 2x, e, for example, could all be u's. But for the sake of this practice, u is only going to be x. And as we saw earlier, x is going to be, the derivative of x is going to be 1. So you see u prime here, taking the derivative of that x is always going to be 1. So u prime in these problems are only going to be equaling 1. But it is really important to note that that's not always true. For example, if it's a e or if it's a 2x, that is the derivative that is not going to be 1. But for the sake of these problems, u prime is going to equal 1. So if you want to look over at the practice now, don't forget your notation here. So f prime of x, you're going to keep that c. So 5 is going to be c. You're going to want to keep that and multiply it by that u prime, which is going to be x. The derivative of x is going to be 1. So very simply, your derivative of 5x is going to be 5. Pretty simple using that rule. This next rule, when I write it out, it's going to look very complicated. I promise you, it's a lot simpler than it looks. So we have n times u to the power of n minus 1 times u prime. All this means is that you're taking n, which is going to be your variable. If you want to look over at the practice, in that case, it's going to be 3. You're just going to take your variable, move it down, and subtract by 1, and multiply by your u prime as well. I can show you how that looks in this practice problem on the right here. Don't forget your notation. So here, so you're gonna move the 3 down. So you're gonna have 3x, and you're gonna take that 3, subtract by 1 to equal 2. So you're just gonna have 3x squared, and you're gonna multiply by your u prime, which equals 1, which is not gonna affect your solution. So your final answer is gonna be 3x squared. So yeah, again, really, really simple. Very, very basic derivative, very, very basic derivative rule. Uh, so you're just gonna bring that 3 down, multiply it by your u, which is your x, and you're gonna take that n, subtract it by 1. N is the variable. In this case, 3, subtract by 1, get 2. Really, really simple in my opinion. The written out in that rule is a little bit hard to remember, and it doesn't look really complicated, but in application, it's not too bad. And that's technically all four derivative rules here that we're going to go over, but I do want to go over a couple of little tricky situations that you can encounter here. So if you want to look at this last practice problem at the bottom, don't forget your notation. Here, you're going to take that exponent, again, you're going to move it down, but you already have a coefficient. So you're just going to multiply that exponent with the coefficient, which is going to be 4, and you're going to keep your u. And again, you're just going to subtract that 2, which is your n. You're going to subtract it by 1 to equal 1. So you get your 4x to the power of 1 times u prime, which is just going to be 1. So you're going to get 4x to the power of 1 times 1, which the power of 1 doesn't affect your equation, and times 1 doesn't affect it. So you're just going to get 4x. Very, very simple again. I just wanted you guys to know, be careful, don't get worried when you see a coefficient. You just take that exponent down, subtract the exponent by 1, and then you got your multiplication, and you're done. Two other tricky ones up here on the very, very right. You got your derivative, don't forget your notation, f prime of x. And the negative, again, very simple, don't let it trip you up. You're just bringing the exponent down, -3, and then you're subtracting by 1. Be careful, it is a -3, so -3 minus 1 is going to be -4. Not -2, it's going to be -4. Don't forget, don't make those silly algebra mistakes. You just got to remember those and be careful. So -3 minus 1 for your exponent is going to be -4. So, and of course, you're multiplying by u prime, which is going to be 1. So you bring the exponent down, -3x, and you're subtracting that -3, your exponent, minus 1, so -4. So your final answer is going to be -3x to the power of -4 there. And of course, times the 1, which doesn't affect your equation. And then this final practice problem up here, you have the derivative f prime of x. And again, don't let it trip you up, the exponent to 1/2. You're just bringing it down still. So 10 times 1/2 is going to be 5. You're going to keep your x here. And you're going to subtract the -2 by 1, which, if you know your fraction rules, is going to be 2/2. And so your answer there is going to be -1/2. So again, you're subtracting your exponent by 1, which is going to get you -1/2. So which means just put the -1/2 as your exponent right there, multiply by 1 for the u prime, and your final solution is going to be 5x to the -1/2. So again, that can be a little tricky to get, I understand. You just got to remember those algebra rules. If you can remember these derivative rules, everything else is just algebra. So you just got to remember those, have that understanding. So you just multiply the 10 by the 1/2, which you brought down, and then subtract that 1/2 by 1, which is going to get you your -1/2 there. So those are about all the tricky problems with that final derivative rule. In my opinion, the other 3 are really simple to understand for me, and they're very simple. And I don't think you guys will have much of a problem with that. That final one can be a little tricky sometimes, but with practice and repetition, it should be no problem to quickly get those derivatives down. To help you out, I will put on the screen a couple of practice problems for you guys to do. And if you guys just want to pause the video here, and on the next screen will be the key for those answers. So I appreciate you guys watching, and hope you guys learned something. Thank you.